All right. Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive
Yeah.
today.
Exciting stuff.
We're going to be tackling something that I think is very relevant to probably everyone listening,
Oh, yeah.
which is personal growth.
Absolutely.
But we're going to be looking at it through a very specific lens.
Okay.
And that is by using excerpts from a book called Conquering the Old Self, Daily Personal Growth.
Interesting.
Um,
Catchy title.
and one of the things
Yeah.
that this book really emphasizes, and the reason we wanted to do a deep dive on it,
Mm-hmm.
is because it kind of turns this idea of personal growth, which we tend to think of as like this positive striving,
Yeah.
you know?
Reaching for something better.
It turns it on its head a little bit
Okay.
and says, the biggest obstacle to your personal growth might actually be yourself.
Oh, interesting.
So the enemy is within,
The enemy is within.
kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's a powerful way to frame it, isn't it?
It is.
Because we often think of obstacles as these external forces.
Right.
Things that are happening to us. Yeah.
But this book really highlights that sometimes the
Mhm.
biggest battles we face are the ones
Yeah.
that are going on internally.
Yeah. And it's funny because as I was reading this, I was trying to think of a
Yeah.
good metaphor for it.
Okay.
And the best one I could come up with was, have you ever seen those videos where there's like a caterpillar and it's trying to become a butterfly,
Yeah.
but it's stuck in its cocoon?
Right.
It's like that. You know what I mean?
I get it.
It's like we're trapped
We're fighting against
by
ourselves.
our own devices, our
Exactly.
own limitations.
Limitations.
Yeah. And I think that resonates with a lot of people
Oh, yeah.
because we've all experienced those moments where we feel stuck.
Yeah.
Like we're not
Yes.
reaching our full potential.
It's like we're capable of so much more,
Right.
but something's holding us back.
And it's like, what is that? That's something.
And it's us.
And often it is us. It's those ingrained patterns, the
Mhm.
self-doubt, the fear.
Yeah. The book actually opens with a very powerful statement.
Yeah.
It says, every day you fight against your past habits, fears, and doubts.
Such a simple statement,
It's so simple,
but so profound.
but it's so true.
Yeah.
Because
You think about it.
we are literally
It's a daily battle.
every day
Yeah.
in a battle against ourselves.
Right.
Right.
And I think the book does a great job of
Yeah.
kind of breaking down
Yeah.
how those past experiences
Yeah.
shape our present behavior.
Yeah.
We're not just born with these limitations.
Right.
They're often formed
Yeah.
through, past events, past relationships, past failures even.
Right.
And those things can leave a mark on us.
Yeah. It's
Like
very
they can create these grooves in our thinking.
scars.
Scars, exactly.
It's like emotional scar tissue almost
Yeah, and we get stuck in those grooves
Yeah.
and they become these patterns. Yeah.
that we repeat over and over again.
And so the book calls it the old self.
The old self, right?
So it's like this.
Like this version of us.
Yeah, it's like this version of us that
That's holding on
is clinging
Uh,
to the past,
to
right?
the past.
And it's made up of all
and
the time.
it's made up of those
Fears,
doubts,
the doubts,
those limiting beliefs,
the insecurities. Yeah.
all the things that are holding us back
Yeah.
from becoming our best selves.
So what are some of the ways that
Yeah.
that this kind of manifests
Okay. Well, I
in
think
people's lives?
it's important to recognize that it can manifest in many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
For some people, it might be procrastination.
Okay. Yeah.
That classic
Yeah.
putting things off
Putting things off.
until the last minute.
Fear.
And that could be rooted in a fear of failure.
Oh, yeah.
If I don't even start,
Yeah.
then I can't fail.
And then I can't possibly fail.
Right.
For others, it might be negative self-talk.
Okay.
That constant inner critic that's
Yeah.
always putting them down.
Yeah, like the should've, would've, could've.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough.
Yeah.
I'm not worthy.
Yeah, why even bother?
Why bother?
Yeah.
And that can be so debilitating.
It can be so...
Because it just erodes your confidence.
Yeah.
And it prevents you from
Yeah.
taking risks, putting yourself out there,
Try new things.
trying new things. Exactly.
And you know what? I think sometimes
Yeah.
it can even manifest as like imposter syndrome.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you've achieved success,
Yes.
but you don't feel like you deserve it.
You feel like a fraud.
You feel like you're a fraud. Yeah.
Like you're going to be found out.
Like at any moment, someone's going to tap you on the shoulder and be like,
Yeah.
wait a minute.
You don't belong here.
You don't belong here.
Right.
Yeah. And that can be so hard to overcome.
It can, because it's this deep-seated belief.
Yeah.
Like, you're not worthy of success.
Right.
Even when you have all the evidence to the contrary. So it's
Yeah.
like, how do you battle that?
Yeah. And that's what this book is all about. It's like, how do we
How do we conquer that old self?
Conquer that old self. How do we battle it?
Yeah.
And it's not easy.
It's not, and that's why I think this book is so valuable.
Yeah.
Because it gives us
It gives us a framework.
a framework and some very concrete steps.
Practical strategies
Yes.
for how to do that.
And one of the things that it emphasizes over and over again
Yeah.
is this idea of small wins.
Yes.
Yeah.
The small wins are crucial.
So can you talk a little bit more about,
Yeah, absolutely.
like, what are some examples of that? And
So I think the idea of small wins is so powerful
yeah.
because it shifts our focus
Mm-hmm.
away from these grand, overwhelming goals
Right.
to these tiny, achievable actions that we
Yeah.
can take every single day.
Right.
And the thing is, these small wins,
They may seem insignificant on their own, but they have this cumulative effect over time.
like a snowball effect.
Exactly, like a snowball effect.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example,
Yeah.
your old self
Mm-hmm.
is really good at hitting the snooze button
Okay.
every morning.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you set your alarm for 6 a.m.,
Mm-hmm.
but you end up snoozing until 6:30
Or 7.
or 7, right?
Yeah.
So a small win in that situation
Yeah.
could be simply getting up
On the first alarm.
on the first alarm, even if it
Yeah.
feels like the hardest thing in the world,
Even if you're dragging.
even if you're dragging, even if you want to crawl back into bed,
Yeah.
but you get up,
You resist.
you resist the urge,
Yeah.
and that's a win.
That's a win, right?
And it might seem small,
Yeah.
but it's actually huge
It is huge.
because it's you saying
It's you taking control
to that old self and saying, I'm in charge now
of your day, of your life.
of my life. Exactly.
It's like saying no to that voice
Oh, exactly.
that's holding you back.
It's a step towards
And so
building that new self.
it's funny because
Yeah.
that seems like such a small thing.
It does.
But I think what the book is trying to teach us is
Yeah.
that those small things,
They add up.
they really add up.
They really do.
You know, and it's like,
It's like building a muscle.
yeah,
You know, you don't go to the gym
Oh,
on day
right.
one
Right.
and lift 500 pounds.
right.
You start with
They're small.
small weights.
You got to warm up.
You got to warm up. You got to build up to it.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with personal growth.
And the cool thing is,
Yeah.
those small wins,
Yeah.
they build momentum.
They do.
So like the more you get,
The more you experience them,
the easier it gets
the easier it gets
to keep going.
to keep going and the more confident you become.
Exactly. So it's like this positive feedback loop.
Exactly. It's a positive feedback loop.
And I think that's what's so important about this book
Yeah.
is that it's not saying
Not about
like you have to make these huge
overnight transformation.
analytical changes.
No, it's about consistency. It's
It's-
about small, sustainable changes.
Yeah, exactly. It's about that daily effort.
Daily effort, one day at a time.
One day at a time.
And I think that's so much more manageable
Ideas.
for most people.
Yeah, because it's less intimidating.
Exactly. It's not so overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I think that's key because when we feel overwhelmed,
Yeah.
we're more likely to give up.
You just shut down. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what are some other
It speaks
examples of
globally.
small wins?
Another example could be
Yeah.
if you struggle with negative self-talk,
Okay.
a small win could be catching yourself
Welcome
in
there.
the act
of doing it
of that negative self-talk.
and then consciously reframing it.
Okay.
So instead of saying,
I'm so stupid. I can't believe I made that mistake.
Yeah.
You say, okay, I made a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. What can I learn from this?
right,
It's about shifting
yeah,
that inner dialogue
from negative to positive.
from negative to something more constructive.
Yeah.
And again, that might seem like a small thing,
Yeah.
but it's actually retraining your brain
Yeah.
to think differently.
To think in a more empowering way.
Exactly.
And another thing that I really loved about this book
Yeah.
is that it talks about the importance of celebrating
Yes.
those small wins.
Celebrate those wins.
Because sometimes we
it's so important.
achieve something
Yeah.
and we're just like, okay, on to the next
On
thing.
to the next one.
And we don't even
But we don't take the time to acknowledge or appreciate how far we've come.
appreciate it to kind of like savor it.
To savor it, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a mistake.
It is.
Because when we celebrate our wins,
Yeah.
no matter how small they are, it reinforces that positive behavior.
It does.
It makes us more likely.
It's like giving yourself a little reward.
Exactly. It's like a little reward.
Yeah.
And our brains love rewards.
They did.
So it's like, okay, I did this good thing. I'm going to celebrate. I'm going to feel good about it. I'm going to want to do it again.
And it makes it easier to keep going.
Exactly. It makes it easier to stay motivated.
So
So celebrate those wins, people.
celebrate those wins. even if they're small.
Even if it's
It's
just
not good as Jeff.
getting out of bed on the first alarm, or catching yourself in a negative thought,
or just
reframing it.
like giving yourself a little pat on the back.
Yeah, a little pat on the back.
Like, you did it.
You're doing great.
You're doing it.
Keep going.
Yeah.
And I think that's the message that I really want to leave people with.
Yeah, that this is a journey.
It's a journey.
It's not a destination.
It's not a destination. It's ongoing.
Yeah, it's ongoing.
And it's going to have ups and downs.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
There are going to be days when you feel like you're winning.
Yeah.
And days when you feel like you're losing.
You're going to fall off the wagon.
But the key is to keep going.
Yeah, just keep going.
Keep showing up for yourself.
And remember that.
One day at a time.
You're not alone.
You're not alone in this.
Everyone's fighting.
Everyone's fighting their own battle.
Their own battles, yeah.
Against their own old selves.
And so the big question I want to leave everyone with today is, what is one small step you can take today
right now
to challenge that old self?
That limiting belief.
Yeah. That old habit.
That thing that's been holding you back.
That's holding you back.
What's one tiny little thing you can do today
that will move you
to move the needle?
In the right direction.
In the right direction.
Even if it's just a tiny little nudge.
Even if it's just a tiny little nudge.
It's a step in the right direction.
It's a step in the right direction.
And that's all that matters.
And that's all that matters.
Because those tiny steps, they add up.
They add up to big changes.
To big changes over time.
So get out there.
Yeah.
And conquer that old self.
Conquer that old self.
One small win at a time.
One small win at a time.
All right. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
See you next time.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.